Hi, everyone. Welcome to this YouTube Live on spiritual empathy, connections, and grounding into your true nature, your true self, while having this spiritual empathy that is a natural part of you. So, I would love to welcome all of you. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited for what we're going to be covering today. And just this topic in general. I'm so thrilled to have the ability to speak with you guys about this topic and to be able to tell you some of Vagrian's teachings, the things I've learned from them over the years about what empathy is and its beauty and the reason why there are those of you who are empaths. And I do say you because I'm not a natural empath. So I am speaking from the opposite perspective of not being a natural empath and yet having my own emotional wave. But for you empaths, you guys are so beautiful. And it is my absolute honor to be here talking to you about this topic today and allowing Vagrian to come through to talk with you about it further. So, the important thing to know about empathy and about being an empath is that you are absolutely needed on the planet right now. You are those warriors who are holding down the fort energetically so that we don't spiral off into way more chaos and destruction that we're already experiencing. And that might sound at the moment like you guys got the short end of the deal. I don't even know if that's the expression, but the truth is that I personally am super grateful for you. The collective, even if they don't necessarily know it, are grateful for you. And I do have a lot of compassion for the knowing of it's hard to be an empath. It's hard to have this natural antenna to the energies that are all around you, to have this natural antenna to picking up on everybody's discomfort and on everybody's emotion and never really knowing what belongs to you and what doesn't belong to you and navigating this world in a very uncomfortable kind of way because, of course, you really never know what's coming. I'm hoping that today's event will help you to know a little bit more about what's coming. Sorry, I have my notes here, but also to feel a little bit more self acceptance in your gifts, to feel a little bit more centered in the things that you have to offer the collective. And on top of being an empath, there are probably lots of passions and projects that you enjoy or that you want to pursue that sometimes it feels difficult to do so because you are an empath. Hello, Bernadette. Hello, Solutus. And hello to everyone who's joining us now as we're getting started. So that's my intention for today's event. And I'm thinking it's probably going to go about 30 minutes, 45 minutes. It really depends how long Vagrian is going to want to talk with us. Oh, Bernadette, thank you for being here. It's so exciting for you to be here and be new. And I'm so happy to have you here. Hi, Peter. Oh, from Denmark. Peter's from Denmark. Okay, so this is the moment on my notes that tells me that we are supposed to say hi, everybody. So, hi, everybody. It's lovely to have you here. If you are here and you were attracted by the title of this event or you're attracted about what's going to come through, then chances are you are an empath. And chances are there have been some struggles in your life related to being an empath. And probably you've picked up some really confusing information about how to protect yourself as an empath, how to not feel your feelings or how to not feel the sensations, or at least to get, not overwhelmed by them. And I just want to also hope, let's set the intention also to unpack the idea or let go of the limiting belief that being an empath somehow makes you vulnerable, somehow makes you weak, somehow makes you in need of protection or sheltering, or, that you kind of have to lock yourself in your house and you can't go out, you can't be around other people, and you can't enjoy your life in whatever ways feel good to you. I hate that belief. I hate that thought. I hate that teaching. I hate the idea that anybody in whatever way they're configured, thinks that the way that they're configured is a limitation to them. So if there are those of you here who are empaths who are like, oh, I just can't be around people, or I just can't handle this, that, or the other thing, I'm hoping that this intention that we set, that gets unpacked either through Vagrian or through my teaching today, whatever it might be. I hope that you leave this session thinking, screw that. I can do whatever the hell I want. And my empathy is a superpower and it's a gift and it's absolutely beautiful. So, hi, Desiree. And who do you channel? Oh, Bernadette says, who do you channel? Of course. Yeah. Am I allowed to ask whoever it or they are? Yeah, well, I'm not going to be able to read the chat when I'm channeling. So, for those of you who are new here, thank you for coming. It's wonderful to have you here. I channel a non physical entity group called Vagrian, or that is known as Vagrian. And they are collective consciousness or a conscious energy form that has higher perspective, that shares wisdom on unity consciousness and radical self acceptance. So, those are their main two pillars of information that they share. Been channeling them since 2019, roughly. And you are able to ask who they are, but I am not taking direct questions in this event. I do have an event coming up that is a question and answer event, and that is on November the 18th. So there are tickets for that on sale right now on my website at www.jpherman.com. And if you are a member of the Vagrian membership site, the tickets are either half price or completely free, depending upon your tier level. So direct questions can be asked there. In a moment, I am going to ask the chat if you guys have any questions, either for me or for Vagrian, about being an empath. And either I'll answer them directly if some sort of shock of wisdom comes to my awareness, or they will be stored in my brain and Vagrian will address them potentially during the channeling segment of today, which from the speed I'm talking might be coming up shortly because they are definitely present and definitely ready to share their wisdom. But again, I will check my notes because I tried to be organized this time. And any one of you who has been following me for a while knows that while I am obsessed with organizational systems, like my Gist planner that I created for you guys to organize your life and structure your life, etc., I don't necessarily follow them myself all that well because I am quite an abstract character. So I took notes. So we have welcome everyone. So welcome everyone. Hi. Where are you from? Nashville. I've got Denmark. I've got Nashville. Orsil says, which dimension do they exist? They do not talk about what dimension they exist in, so I don't know what dimension they exist in. And every time that question comes up, they talk about how dimensions or the idea of dimensions are more for our convenience, for us to understand something than actually accurate. So, and Romania and all kinds of amazing places. So, thank you guys for being here. Germany. Oh, I love. I'm going to pronounce it wrong. Cologne. I don't know. You can correct me in the comments. Right. So we are now talking about the mechanics of empathy. So I am a life coach as well as the channel for Vagrian, but I have to admit that a lot of my expertise on empathy has come through Vagrian's teachings. Like I mentioned earlier, personally, I'm not a natural empath. I don't really get affected at all by other people's emotions. Of course, relationally, everyone does. If someone's screaming at me, I'm going to have some sort of relational experience of those emotions. Or if someone is very sad and they come to me for compassion, I'm going to be able to feel what they're feeling or empathize with their feelings. But I'm not naturally an empath, which would be the person hasn't even yet expressed that they're sad, or the person hasn't yet expressed that they're angry. The moment you guys walk into a space, you will feel the emotions of the people around you. You will feel what they feel, even if they haven't yet expressed it. So you're kind of like this barometer kind of thing, right? So that is very different than someone who doesn't have natural empaths. And you're going to feel the other people's emotions. You're going to also feel the other person's energies, and you're going to feel the other person's spiritual signature. Okay. So, as an empath, you have this beautiful, I would say, non physical ability to get into the energies of other people, at least on the emotional level. And through the being able to sample and to absorb, and well, absorb is kind of what we're trying to avoid doing, but to be able to feel the other people's feelings, what ends up happening is you then have this wisdom of how to interact with them, on how to guide them, on how to hold space for them, on how to be really present with them in a way that someone who's not a natural empath would not have, because you know firsthand what that other person is feeling. Great, right? Like, great. What a wonderful superpower to have. Except, yeah, a lot of people are feeling kind of really bad. Okay. And probably you grew up in a household in which your family members, your parents, your caregivers weren't always happy, weren't always in the best of mood, and perhaps they didn't have sovereignty and self responsibility for their emotions. And you being an empath, feeling mom or dad, there's something off, and feeling very deeply their discomfort, it's possible that you learned that feelings, that emotions of other people are scary or dangerous or can affect you in a certain way, and you learned strategies throughout your life to try to not feel other people's feelings. So you never really had a chance to step into that spiritual gift for yourself. You've never really had the ability to go deeply into, I'm an empath and that's a superpower, because your own state of being got so rocked by the moving boat. Yes, it is hard to distinguish your surrounding emotions from your own. It's lovely to see you. Thank you for coming. Oh, and by the way, I used to feel everything, but in the last couple of years, I say, my energy stays with me. My energy stays with me. You. Okay, that's great. That's a great mantra. Okay. Okay. So cool. Great. So yeah, and I agree with you, Jeff. Also, it's very hard to be around strangers when you're an empath, because then you don't even have context for why you're feeling what you're feeling, and that is really can be very overwhelming. What in my notes I've got in my notes I have basically what Siglinda said, which was visualize yourself and ask yourself, is this my energy or is it someone else's? So you've jumped to the gun and gone to the point where you say that this is my energy and this is someone else's. But sometimes an empath might even not even know. Like if you've grown up an empath and you've spent your whole life thinking other people's feelings are your feelings and that you're constantly being shaken around by other people's feelings, but you think that they're yours, you might not even know what you feel because you're constantly feeling just what is going on around you and you don't have your own feeling state. Now, I would argue that interestingly, empaths actually don't have their own feeling state. It's a controversial statement I just made there. That doesn't mean they don't have feelings and doesn't mean they won't have, again, relational interaction with situation and circumstance. But it does mean that left to their own devices, they don't have this wave of emotional energy that goes up and down. They're not actually living their life through an emotional filter or through an emotional reception of their own personalized experience of emotions. They are literally here to sample the emotions of the collective and amplify or process or let go of them. And again, in terms of empaths, the only people who can actually help to process the collective trauma are you empaths. And you're here as what Vagrian sometimes calls the feeling keepers. There is so much trauma in our collective that is not able to be held by the people directly connected to it because they simply would not function any longer. They don't have the self awareness, they don't have the consciousness at this point. So, those of you who are empaths who are on the journey of self discovery are tasked almost with being the keepers of the emotional range, the emotional platform. Now, I have some psychic ability, so I can see situations and circumstances. Sometimes I can be placed in a first person perspective of a situation or circumstance and like experience what someone else is experiencing. But that's not the same as the empaths who are doing that all the time. And you guys, you have a hard time with it. But what we're going to do is also with Vagrian, and you've heard this lots of times before, is allow yourself to think of yourself sort of as a cylinder more so than a bucket. Okay. So when the emotions come in, allow them to sort of flow back out directly. And just be with them and know that at any point in time, when you move away from those people's auras or their auric fields, then you can go into your space, your room, and let it go. I found with a lot of empaths that I know, it lingers because the brain gets involved and then the brain continues to think about the emotional experience that they're having. And a lot of the times, the brain is thinking out of fear or anxiety, saying, if I don't solve that other person's problem and fix that person's problem and change that person's state of being, I'm constantly going to feel this way. So there's a lot of mental anguish going on a lot of the times also with empaths, especially when we were talking about in terms of friends and family. That is the case because you tend to be the fixers of the collective. But if you can allow yourself to just say like, okay, my partner is in this state of being. And yes, it's affecting me, but it can go straight through my system. And then later on today, I will have a moment alone with myself. And in that moment, I will have clarity and I will have peace and I have calm and I have control. So that is one of my pieces of advice for you. We will go to Vagrian shortly. If you guys have any questions of Vagrian, now is the time to put it in the chat so I can read them and then they can get burned into my retinas and then Vagrian can pick them up if they decide to do so. So if you guys are empaths, shout out your most challenging experience with that. Shout out something that you wanted to ask always about collective consciousness, about being an empath, and we can talk about it with Vagrian in just a moment. Again, what's left in the chat here that I can say is the discomfort comes from strangers. Joanne says, hi, Joanne. So good. I feel like the people energy is smothering all over me sometimes, and I have to be discerning sometimes because it can be way too much. Yes. And boundaries. So discerning and boundaries, and absolutely. By the way, good news for all you empaths. The emotions of other people are not your problem. They don't belong to you. You are being offered the emotion if you so choose with your own sovereignty and free will to interact with the fact that that person is having that emotion or that situation is provoking that emotion. Okay. So Christy says, how to decide which path I should take when they all feel exciting and joyful. Great question, Christy. And I don't know if they'll address it today because they're kind of on the empathy track, but let's see. Bernadette says, how can empaths recognize that they're empaths? Not everyone knows what that word means. Thanks. Great question. Okay, so I will attempt to answer that and see if Vagrian will answer it better than me. They probably will. So from my experience, an empath doesn't ever wake up in the morning in a bad mood. Okay. So they have to actually wait until someone else's bad mood gets stuck to them. Okay. So someone who's an empath has as their recognition of self stability in their emotional range. Okay. So they are not people who, when they're on their own, have fluctuations of emotion. So you can find out if you're an empath if you go into the forest and you feel similarly for the entire time you're in the forest. Let's say you go away for a week and you're not really interacting with other people, you go on a retreat and you're feeling, maybe not you're feeling great. Maybe you're in a funny mood for like one of the days, but it seems to be consistent. Okay. A non-empath will have these natural waves that actually don't have anything to do with anything. They are simply energy flowing through their system in different frequency vibrations. And this is also why a lot of the law of attraction teachings need kind of be tweaked for someone who is like an empath and someone who isn't an empath. And these are not the only two types. Obviously, this is a spectrum. There's like everything is a spectrum. There's center, and then there's on either end of the range, there's empath, and then there's completely self-sustained emotional being. Okay. So like a self-sustained emotional being was someone who has an emotional wave, who is pretty much feeling their own wave all the time. And then, yes, interacts with humanity. It's not like they're narcissists or they're psychopaths or something like that. That's not the other end of the range. That's just a different way that their mechanism works in terms of relating. So you will see that you're somewhere on the spectrum anyway of between empath and completely self-sovereign. But there are, ways of finding out where you're more on that spectrum. And one of them is spend some time alone. If you consistently have a similar sort of feeling state after a period of time alone, then you're probably an empath, especially if when you then go into a crowd or you then meet up with people, your feeling state does get quite volatile quite quickly. Basically, non-empaths are less affected by other people, I find, and probably more affected by their own junk, like me. Okay. I feel these streams of energies all the time, Judith says. Stella says, this is helpful. Oh, great. I'm so glad. Okay. You feel drained being in public places or around people in general? Do people with attention modulation have lower probability to be empaths? No, I don't think that's the case. Or I think they're not related, but I do think everyone's different and individual. And so the same way there's a spectrum of the way that you feel, I'll call it like that, there's also a spectrum of the way that your attention is applied in existence. And so we've all got these connect the dots types of things going on. So I don't think that they're necessarily connected. And I agree with you. They do speak like ACIM sometimes. And that's fascinating because all these wisdom teachings are very closely linked, aren't they? Okay, so I'm going to go into trance, and I'm sure you're very bored of hearing from me by now. So I will head in there and see what happens, see what gets transmitted, see what comes through. And on the other end of it, hopefully you'll let me know in the chat how it was and what you took away from it. And so I could have a little bit of feedback about how it went. If you do have your own questions to ask Vagrian and you want to ask them in person, I'm doing a live event on November the 18th. So do join me for that. You can get tickets right on my website. And if you're part of the Vagrian membership site, which now has a 7-day free trial, cool, you are able to get those tickets either half off or full price off, depending upon which tier you sign up for. So they ruin a lot of people with misdiagnosis, just how it is. And yet the medical profession still serves for many, many things. It's one of those things, yeah. I wish they would diagnose less and accept more that things are everyone's different and unique and beautiful, because they really are. Okay, so I'll head into trance. I will see you soon, and yeah, have fun. Good now to you. We are pleased to be meeting with you in this fashion and are eager to discuss with you this topic in this now moment of empathy, or of being an empath, more so than empathy in and of itself, because empathy is a tool available to all of you. It is simply that those of you who are empaths are masters of that tool before you are even born. It is a non-physical, yes, gift that is the ability to, within, yes, and without your own system of energetics, sense the frequency of emotion that is passing through what you perceive to be as other selves, which of course is never actually other selves, is more versions of you. And in doing so, you have more of the experience in some ways that the all that is does have of you as a collective, or as the individuations that you are when you are seeing yourselves and are being seen by the all that is as all one. So those of you who are considered, or to consider themselves to be empaths, are tapping into what it is like to be another self. You are able to feel the feelings of another self. You are able to experience the sensations that they experience. You are able to pick up on the frequency that they are vibrating in a way that not all of you are capable of. This is not better or worse. Often you think it is worse because you feel yourself to be hampered by this ability. But it is simply because you have not yet learned, or have not chosen to learn, how to master this skill that you are already a master of, or that you came in to be a natural master of. So what is this ability to sense the other self, and what is it for? As you know, your collective is in a state of flux and transition. There were not as many of you as empaths some generations ago. You know this also because it is documented in your history. You did not have all of this energy of thinking so much of the other self, thinking so much of their experience, thinking so much of their suffering, thinking so much of the way that they must feel. Your history books speak of very different cultures and moments in your history in which there was no consideration of the other self, no consideration at all, in fact, of how one's actions would impact them, of how one's choices would impact another. And with the multiplication of the arrival of those of you who have the skill of empathy, what has happened, has completely changed the playground of human experiencing. However, you have not matured yet. In fact, you are still on a playground and not in a work environment in which you have already figured out what to do with this ability. You are still with your training wheels on, and still perhaps fearful that you might scrape your knee should you fall. An empath, in its knowing of its sovereignty, of its safety, of faith itself, is a very powerful character indeed, because it is an equivalent of a metaphysical gift, an ability to be able to feel what someone else is feeling just by proximity to them. You are being given all of the same information that their feelings themselves are giving them. And as you know, feelings are simply telling you something. They're telling you either that your belief system is no longer serving you, or that there's something that is important to you, or that there's something that you would like to fix in your experience, or that there's something that is in pure alignment with the way that all that is sees things. And as you are, as an empath, standing next to someone and experiencing their experience of their feelings, you, as the empath, not being them, not being so up close with your nose rubbing against their experience, now have access to the information that all that is attempting to deliver to that person. So it makes you these wonderful advisors. If only you could allow yourself to not be swayed by the emotion. How does one do this? How does one prevent themselves from, for example, their partner is in a terrible mood because they have had a fight with their boss? And in being in this terrible mood, you now are in this terrible mood. But are you really? They are in this mood because of the experience and the circumstance that they've had, or even because they've chosen simply to be in this mood. Are you really in that mood as well? Or are you like an observer watching a TV being broadcast a certain television station with the ability to understand it differently than the characters inside of the film? Don't you see more of the screen than they can? Don't you have another perspective on it? Of course, if you allow yourself to believe that you too are a player in that particular experience, you will have far less ability to see what is going on around you, because you too will say, no, I must fix this problem because I do not like how it feels. What if your feelings could not hurt you? What if your sensations of emotions could simply be data for you? What if, even in walking into a crowd full of angry people or saddened people, you did not suddenly have a sensation of adrenaline, of fight or flight, because you did not need to escape from the feeling of sadness or anger? You simply were able to hold it, knowing it was not yours. Now we know that you are currently being transmitted images of the difference that your reality would experience, or what you would experience, if you had the ability to hold yourself and be in those emotions at the same time. First of all, if you decided that you needed to walk through this crowd to go get your groceries, yes, you might feel angry or sad as you were doing so, because they are angry and sad, whatever it might be. But you would not be so distracted by the discomfort of that emotion to stop you from getting your groceries. Now, this is a simple example. It is simple because one does need to eat, do they not? One does need to get their groceries. But it is a symbol of everything else you are wanting to do in your life. So now this character, this one that we were speaking of, this you, this version, is able to walk directly into a crowd and be not swayed by it. Not be affected by those people on the subway, not be affected by that colleague that is constantly shouting, simply gathering the data that is necessary so that the mission that they have as a non-physical being can be fulfilled. If you were to listen with your non-physical ability of empathy to that colleague who is always shouting, you would find beneath the shouting, there's anger. Beneath the anger, there's sorrow. Beneath the sorrow, there's a belief. The shouting, the anger, the sorrow are all pointing to the belief that this person, perhaps without the ability to do so, but with you as a soulmate, with you as their colleague, have the guidance to do so, to let go of this belief. And perhaps Kevin, we will call him Kevin, simply needs a friend. Perhaps Kevin needs some empathy. Perhaps Kevin, with your stability, with your bravery and courage in the face of his emotion, can finally allow himself to feel it. This is why we call you the feeling keepers or the emotion keepers, because you are holding this space for the other selves. You are holding these energies gently. We're not saying to hold on to them, so that you, as you come into your own wisdom, as you come into your own sovereignty, as you come into your own boundaries, which we will discuss, yes, are able to be in service in a way that is natural to you. that is a natural gift to you. Instead of running from others' emotions, you start to realize that if you can feel the emotion at all of another self, it is because that other self on a soul level is calling to you to help them to understand their emotions, to help them to live into them, to feel them fully, so that they no longer have to hold on to limiting beliefs, or they no longer have to hold on to certain situations and circumstances. This is the gift of the empath, how beautiful you are. And it does not mean, and we'll speak to you because we hear you, it does not mean that those of you who are not empaths do not have your own missions to be on, your own gifts to give. It is simply that this is not one of them that was needed for you for the particular mission that you are on. You have other things to deal with. You are all uniquely gifted with exactly what you need to manage. Those of you who are not empaths, guess what? Those of you who are aware are here to support the empaths, which is why this event is even taking place. Somebody's got to do it, right? So, boundaries, just because Kevin is shouting, does not mean you have to take on his energy, or that you have to help him, or that you have to do anything at all about it. Of course, you have been tapped on the shoulder for it, yes. But you can still say no. You can still refuse this role. You can still say that it is not for you, that you actually don't even really like Kevin. He smells funny. But this need be done with boundaries. You did already tap upon them before this discourse began. You did tap upon how one can begin to discern between what is theirs and what is not. And our friend, the vessel, was correct in that the majority of what you are feeling as an empath is not yours. You did not come here with a motor to be able to feel feelings outside of those that are considered, quote, not yours. Of course, all that is yours. Of course it is. Not yours in the same way that it might be for someone who does not have this gift. It is calm, emotional landscape without other people, is it not? You do not have these ups and downs or your mood shifting so significantly. And yes, we will say you are perhaps affected by circumstances. When you win the lottery, you might feel elation, followed by the disappointment that that elation did not last. And those would be feelings, yes, that you had, but they are circumstantially based. They would be yours. You would have that even if you were in your apartment alone when you found out you won. And then when you found out that it didn't actually change anything on a permanent level. But what you have more often is the reception to other people's emotions. So how does one set boundaries? Well, it is energy, so you set energetic boundaries. Intention, not physical boundaries. Guess what? Your empathy extends through your telephones as well. It extends through your televisions. It extends through the walls of your apartment building. So any form of locking yourself inside your house is not really going to solve the problem, because you are still going to feel horrific for the things that you see on your screens. You are still going to feel horrific for the call of those who need empathy, because it is a psychic ability. So how does one navigate experience without closing themselves off, without becoming avoidant of emotion, without refusing to interact with other people who have emotions, without getting into all kinds of trouble in their own relationships because they are not capable of allowing someone else to have emotions because it affects them so greatly? Intention. Not the intention to not feel, but the intention instead to feel without it being a problem for you. The intention to get to the point where you let go of the limiting belief that feeling badly or having an emotion at all that is not of a positive level is a problem. It is not a problem. It cannot harm you. So what if you are sad? So what if you are angry? What's the big deal? The only reason why these emotions have ever become a problem is because you did not allow them in the first place. A small child gets angry and sad all of the time, and they are back bouncing, bubbly, and smiling in no time because they've not yet learned that their negative, quote, negative emotions are a problem. So why need be the negative emotions of anyone else a problem either? They're not a problem. They're simply information. Information transmitted in a certain way, in a certain frequency. So yes, you can draw golden eggs around you as much as you would like. You can put yourself in a position where you do not leave your house and you order everything online. You do not walk through the crowd for the groceries because they come to you. but this will never resolve what you are actually wanting to resolve, in part also by being an empath. And that is that emotions are beautiful, they are valuable, they are to be honored and loved and cherished, whether they are yours or of another self. There is nothing to run away from, nothing to be fearful of, and nothing to do about them unless you so choose to interact with that situation or circumstance that did bring up that emotion. So Kevin needs your love. The crowd needs your love. You yourself need your love and empathy. Allow yourself to feel it. Allow yourself to set the intention to have it be less intense. Allow yourself to set the intention to let go of your fear of feeling. You are beautiful creatures. You are mystical creatures. You are more non-physical than you allow yourself to believe yourselves to be. And as you allow yourself to feel, and as you allow yourself to deprogram any belief that told you that it was not okay or that it was not safe, you will find your gifts come more and more online, and you will find yourself more and more able to express, experience, and dive into your desires and preferences, because you will no longer be distracted by all the noise of trying to run away from what simply is. And that is that you are an emotional creature. It is that you are on an emotional planet. And it is that, sorry to say it, you signed up to come to help clean up the mess. For this, we, as it is in alignment with our intention as well, are ever grateful, ever loving. We leave you with the love and the light of 1,000 suns. A nine. Okay, hi everyone. Right, so how does one achieve the snowball? Well, hi everyone, by the way. I'm very dopey when I come out of channeling. So for those of you who are new here, hi, I'm Jessie. I just came out of channeling Vagrian and I'm dopey. So I'm just reading through the comments. There's a yes, ma'am, they do. Steve says, what did she find Jessie and Vagrian channeling tonight? Hi, Steve. Lovely to see you. As an empath, I've only found it empowering. The inherent awareness and ability to discern is and continues to be enlightening and invaluable. Absolutely, Lori. Alinda says, hi. Hi, Alinda. And Lori says, perhaps it's neither right, no purpose not incumbent upon us to solve or nurture pursued feelings of others. No, it isn't. You don't need to do anything. Remember that. You do not need to do anything. It is always an offering. You have an ability. You don't need to do anything about the feelings of others, but you have an ability to be with them, to be love, like we always do. We always have the ability to be love. Wonderful. The other needs to understand, comprehend, and deal with. Absolutely. Okay, so hi. This is fun. I like doing these lives. I'll probably do a couple more of them before the end of the year, so stay tuned. I hope you are signed up to my newsletter, because I do try to inform on the newsletter about the lives. And I hope that you will join me on November the 8th, sometime around, I think this time or earlier. I'm not sure what time of day, kind of around this time. Where will we be meeting on Zoom instead of here? And that is a full question and answers period. You guys are calling the shots. It's one of the first times Vagrian's done a question and answer period where there's no theme, there's no topic, there's nothing to prevent you from asking about anything. They don't have an agenda or an itinerary of that question and answer. So it's really audience driven. And you can be part of the audience by grabbing your ticket online today at www.jpherman.com. I wanted to let you guys know that I just hired a web developer to take over all of the web stuff on the website. So that is going to be getting an amazing makeover and bringing you so much more content, and a store where you can buy audio files, and the membership site is going to be up leveled. And I'm super, super excited about that. And it shouldn't even have a really long rollout period. So I am excited about that. And I'm excited to bring that to you. And speaking of the membership site, you can sign up for that right now with a 7-day free trial to it. So, sign up and join us for 7 days. I believe we have a Vagrian Cafe coming up. If you sign up today, you're also invited to the Vagrian Cafe that we have coming up in the next couple of days, even if it's in your free trial period. So why not? That makes sense. So again, that will be on www.jpherman.com. And up at the top, there's the new menu. And I believe there's membership there under, I think, transformations. So have a look if it's under there. Jeff says, the part where you mentioned walking past the crowd to get to what you need or not, depending on how you felt, the crowd says a lot to me. That can be saying, and it's anxiety when it isn't. Oh yeah, I saw that in the channeling. So I know what you're talking about because I don't often remember the channeling. You know what? It was a scary crowd. It was a scary, angry mob of a crowd. And the grocery store was like one of these like mini markets. And off whoever this was went, and the crowd was a little overwhelming, but they wanted to eat. And the groceries, I believe, were something along like celery. Was there celery in the groceries? This is going to resonate deeply with someone. Someone's going to be like, I bought celery today. Yes. Oh, and Steve's here to clean up the mess. Yes, yes, yes. Nice. Yeah, going on everywhere as we speak. That's right. So, where was I? Yeah, I don't know where I was. Doesn't matter. We're all here now. And I love you guys. I'm so happy you're here. So, like, the pauses are removed and it's much more polished and fancy, and put it back up as its own unique video. Um, there are a lot of live videos here, by the way, in my YouTube channel. They're all as fun as this one. So I do suggest, if you haven't, to go back and watch some of those if you want to be entertained, because I'm aware that I am the most entertaining thing on the internet these days. So enjoy those. I believe they're in the like the little live tab on my channel. And tell your friends, guys. Comment, subscribe, like the videos. Guess what? We're living in a world where algorithms matter. When you interact with this content, other people get to see it too. So do your bit, clean up the universe, and send off this video to all of your friends. So I'm gonna head off now. Check out my website www.jpherman.com. I have to say that at least 10 times in every video, or my marketing manager, who's me, is going to get angry at me. So yeah, I will talk to you guys soon. See you guys soon. And hopefully those of you who sign up for the Vagrian membership site, you will get an email about the Vagrian Cafe, which I believe is in 3 days time. So I think it's on the 24th. One of the members will remind me that that is correct or not. So we'll see you there. And you guys, that is on Zoom. So you get to chat and we can all like talk about everything. That's lots of fun. Mwah! Sending all my love. Have an amazing, amazing day. And ciao.